I think a couple things in terms of blighted properties. When I was in Southbridge, we had a lot of blighted properties that, quite honestly, kids were getting into. We were worried that they were doing pop parties and things of that nature, and that they were going to hurt themselves. So we did go in and we did different construction orders, did a board a survey, and then demoed them to make sure that they were safe. And then we just, any of the demo work we then did an assessment against those properties. You know, I think that government needs to use eminent domain as reasonably and as responsibly as possible, and as little as possible. Because if you don't do eminent domain very well, it could be very expensive for a town. But we just finished working on a sewer project, and you know, you have a sewer and we had a lot of private ways. So I think that if you're providing a governmental service, and you need to, technically those are eminent domain takings to do access to the street to be able to bring the sewer lines down. So I think there are certain times that you have to do that, but I think as minimal as you can.
I do have some experience that was discussed about the use of eminent domain for a certain property, right? My personal opinion on eminent domain is it's a tool and a lever that the government and the municipal town can use if it needs to, but I would tread lightly and be very, very cautious about that. It's, you know, when we look at the greater good, what is the greater good? How is that defined, right? If we're going to take a property, if it's already a blighted property and we can't contact anybody and it's been abandoned on the deed and it's been sitting there, potentially there's a way, and I know Providence put into a plan to acquire blighted properties and then auction them off to developers that were going to build housing that met the needs of the community.
I am looking for someone to lead North Attleboro into our next generation, to bring us forward with our new form of government and to make North Attleboro work for the people. And I think that Mr. Borg has an unbelievable record as a leader.
My initial impressions and my belief is that I would be in favor of supporting Mr. Clark. In terms of his experience, he's had over 30 years of working in a municipality, and he's been mentored by many people. He's had the opportunity to work in capacity with a lot of the state legislators, so he already knows a lot of people and would be able to leverage those assets to our advantage, which I think is critical at this time right now.
You know, because if you look at Mr. Clark, the guy has a ton of experience, relevant experience, right? I feel like he's an incredibly safe play, and people might use that in a derogatory fashion in some cases, and you can take it how you want to take it. I think that if Mr. Clark came in on day one, he would know how to do this job. I think he would do it well. I think, you know, on the alternative side, Mr. Borg, he doesn't have the municipal experience, you know, like, I mean, and he readily admits to it, right? He has a lot of experience in Providence, which is good. He has passion. He has, you know, drive, determination. I think, you know, I love that Mr. Borg is so data-driven. That said, I think Mr. Borg has a really high ceiling. I have no doubt that he would come in here in 1 or 2 or 3 years and knock off 3 or 4 huge projects.
I do have to sway with the upside because it's the unknown and we don't necessarily know the ceiling. And I know that the way the Mr. Gallagher's contract is structured, and if Mr. Borg is who he says he is, he will act like a sponge day one, utilize that resource, and be much better off when it's time for him to take the reins completely.
I will forego my personal preference of Mr. Clark so that we can be a united front.
I think what we need is a motion to appoint Mr. Borg pending final background check and contract negotiations.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second from Ms. Prescott. Any further discussion? Keith Lapointe am a yes, so that's unanimous, 9-0. that we have some contract negotiation work to do